Welcome everybody to the Pinkster Gin Cocktail Masterclass. My name's Carla and I'm the Head of Engagement in the fundraising team. Your masterclass is going to last about 50 minutes, so you should have your kit and your tasting notes to hand. Please drink responsibly. After the masterclass, we invite you to join a live Q&A with Stephen Marsh, the founder of Pinkster Gin, and myself. Any questions during the masterclass, please add them to the chat. I'm just going to pass over to Sharon Allen, our Chief Executive.
Gin o'clock! Welcome everybody to this evening's Pinkster event. My name's Sharon Allen and I'm the Chief Executive here at the Arthur Rank Hospice Charity, and it's a delight to welcome you to what I know is going to be a wonderful evening. I will put my not gin down. I just wanted to give you a very brief update to how life is here at the hospice. You'll understand that we've had to make huge changes, and you'll also know that our focus has been always on ensuring that patients and families can continue to receive the services that they need from us. So our inpatient unit has remained open, and we have continued to welcome visitors, albeit with some restrictions, unfortunately. We have made those as least restrictive as we can. Many of our services, again, I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear me say, have gone digital. So our day therapy services are completely digital, all being done on Zoom, a steep learning curve that everybody has adapted to fantastically. Our community services have become more of a blend, so virtual communications and consultations when we can, and home visits when this is the service that somebody needs. Our hospice at home service has continued to provide home visits and face-to-face service throughout, and in really exciting news, we're expanding our hospice at home service so that we will be able to provide this amazing service for anyone throughout Cambridgeshire during the day and at night as well. Our patient and family support service is also adapted to do a mixture of online and face-to-face services, as has our lymphedema service. And our Alan Hudson Day Treatment Centre up in the north of the county has also continued to provide services throughout. So we're really proud to have been able to continue to support people and their families throughout this pandemic, and we will continue to do so. Our team have been fantastic in their response. I cannot thank them enough, and I cannot thank you, our supporters, our community, enough for your amazing support to us throughout this very challenging year. It is difficult, there's no shying away from that. We're determined together though, we will come through this. We will continue to make every moment count. So, have an amazing evening. It's going to be absolute fun. I know that. I know you will enjoy it. And if it isn't too early to wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Hello, my name is Stephen Marsh. I'm the founder and creator of Pinkster Gin. And welcome to the Pinkster Gin virtual winter tasting. You should have received in your a pack like this, and in that you should have received 5 miniatures, 3 mixers, and so on. So the 5 miniatures are the triple juniper, which we're going to try first. Then we're going to move on to the Pinkster itself and do the winter serve of Pinkster. Then Pinkster Royale, the Pinkster Gimlet, and we're going to end with the Hedge Pig Wild Bullets and Quince. You should have also received 3 mixers: the Indian Tonic, which obviously we're going to try first. Then the Fever Tree Aromatic Tonic, and the Ginger Ale. Plus, you should have had 3 of our Gin Jam cocktail sachets, of which more later, and a jar of our mini Gin Jam. It's absolutely delicious. We make it with the raspberries we've used to make Pinkster. It's 2.5%. Marvellous. Use it wherever you'd normally use jam. And you should have had a running order, and that will set out the glassware and the garnishes you need. Now, for glassware, just to recap on that, I think it's worth having wine glasses. I use lots of shot glasses, and if you're sharing this tasting pack, then you probably want some smaller glasses as well, and tumblers. And then for garnishes, very important to have an orange, and some cloves, lime, and a peeler. But we're going to start with the triple juniper. But if you bring all that together, oh, and ice, we need ice. Most important thing. You can survive without. If you haven't got all the garnishes, don't worry too much. If you haven't got ice, that's a disaster. So you need plenty of ice. Anyway, we're going to start this evening with the triple juniper, but I'll give you a chance to pull all the pieces together, and then we'll crack on. Now we're going to start with the triple juniper, and the reason we call it triple juniper is because we put 3 times as much juniper into it as normally goes into gin. And I'll tell you why we do that in a second. But first of all, let's get some liquor on our lips. I'm going to put a little bit in a shot glass, and what we're going to do is we're going to build up to a gin tonic. So, having poured some, I'd then like you to take a sniff of it. Now, when you do that, you should get a hefty dose of juniper. You may then get some alcohol, but really it's juniper that should be hitting you really with this. Juniper is very, very predominant, to use the technical phrase. Then when you've done that, have a sip of it. Don't take a huge amount, but just enough to taste it. Swirl it around your mouth, and then boy, is there a lot of juniper there. Wave after wave of juniper. If you like gin, that's fantastic. Gin is all about juniper. Definition of vodka is a pure grain spirit. Definition of gin is a pure grain spirit, predominantly flavoured with juniper. Now, the word predominantly is very, very important. It's actually enshrined in law, and there's absolutely no doubt that there's an awful lot of juniper in there. And so then what we're going to do is we're then going to taste it we're going to try it with a little bit of ice. Some of you may be picking up some pepper notes too. Everybody's taste receptors are different. Everybody's ability to pick up flavours is slightly different. If you've got really good taste buds, you might be picking up some pepper notes in the tail. But actually, I hope most people will agree that there's a very pleasant mouthfeel to it. There's a lot of juniper, but it's a very, very smooth, very, very smooth gin. Now that is a classic London dry. In fact, it's probably slightly more than classic because it is so heavily juniper forward. But that is a London dry. We distill with 5 botanicals. As I say, using 3 times as much juniper as normal. So then, if you get some ice, as it's just me, I'm going to be using my hands, and put the ice in the glass and swirl it around a bit. Now the ice, this is going to sound so stupid, the ice does 2 things. First of all, it lowers the temperature. Who'd have thunk it? But that's actually really, really important. I think. Now the other thing it does is that it dilutes the spirit, and actually when it does that, something happens on a molecular basis, that it opens up the spirit. When you taste gin professionally, you taste it 50-50 with water. Now I prefer to do it this way, because actually I like to see what impact the lowering of the temperature has upon the spirit. So that should be enough time now for it to have done its work. If you hold it up to light, you will see it. You will see the liquid. You'll see the sort of the swirls in the liquid where it's diluting. you don't want to dilute it too much. Actually, generally, you want to put more ice rather than less in your glass, because the more ice you have, the slower it will melt. So then it's not quite so strong on the nose, but it has been in the glass for a few minutes now, and as it's an open glass, the aroma will dissipate faster. A closed glass, so a sort of a tapered top, like a wine, decent wine glass, will tend to retain the aroma longer. Then to sip it, still huge hit of juniper. A slightly longer hit of juniper, not quite such a big sort of punch of it this time. And a very, very ginny flavour. I'm again very smooth. Some of you may be picking up pepper notes, but that's a really, really straightforward gin and tonic. We make this first because, and we put 3 times as much juniper in because that's how much juniper I need to be able to work with the raspberries when we come to make Pinkster. But I'll tell you all about that when we come on to Pinkster. So now next on this, I'm going to add some tonic. So open the Fever Tree, the Indian tonic, and put about twice as much tonic as there is as there is gin. The Fever Tree adverts talk about, say, that if 3/4 of your drink is a mixer, make the mixer a good one, which is absolutely right. Fever Tree is by far and away, I think, the best of the tonics, largely because it's made with cane sugar rather than any types of syrups. Personally, I prefer to mix on a 2-to-1 basis, so 2 parts mixer to 1 part spirit. I certainly wouldn't go beyond 3 parts mixer. But I like to say I like 2 parts. So then have another taste, and it's a very nice gin and tonic. Lots of juniper. The quinine's coming in now, and working very well with juniper. But that's a very juniper forward, classic gin. Very smooth, no discordant flavours, very, very, very drinkable. But to make it even more drinkable, we're going to garnish it. And what we're going to do, I'm going to take an orange, and I'm just going to remove some orange peel. And the reason we use orange peel rather than a slice of orange is because actually there's an enormous amount of flavour in the skin of the orange, in the pores. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to twist it, and by twisting it, what we're doing is we're bursting the pores. There's essential oils, orange essential oils are bursting out. They're spraying the edge of the glass. So then when you raise the glass to your lips, you should get an aroma of orange. Now the general rule is that something that gives an aroma has a much bigger impact upon your taste experience of a drink than something that is submerged. Now, so that's a lovely orange smell then when you raise the glass to your lips. And those essential oils have gone into the drink and added just an essence of orange to it. Really nice. I don't know, I'm biased because I make it, but I think that's really very good. I could drink quite a lot of it. Actually, I do drink quite a lot of it. I think it's that's a really good juniper forward classic London Dry gin, and the garnish absolutely works. The general rule, as I say, with garnishes is that a garnish is on the surface is generally there to enhance the aroma. A garnish that's submerged, one or two exceptions, but a garnish that's submerged is generally there for the aesthetics. A slice of orange or a slice of lemon or lime that's been sitting in a dish in a bar in water is probably not going to add any flavour to the drink. It's going to look good, but it's not going to add any flavour. I hope you've liked that. I think that's really good. Now we're going to move next on to to Pinkster itself. Now we're going to move on to the to Pinkster itself, which you should have, for which you're going to need the Pinkster, the aromatic tonic, some orange, a slice of orange, some cloves, and importantly some ice, and glassware. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I started to make Pinkster. I'm a reluctant distiller. I never intended to do this, but I had about 4 years when I was on the wagon. I had a stomach problem. Turned out I had a problem with yeast and sugar. You go to a doctor and say you've got a drinking problem, in that you can't. They tend not to take it quite as seriously as you think they should. The 5th doctor identified the problem as being to do with yeast and sugar. And he said we could cure that by cutting yeast and sugar out of my diet, which is much easier said than done. But I did it, and it took me 2 years of cutting yeast and sugar out of my diet before he said, right, you can start drinking again, but only drink gin or vodka. Now, having had a really bland diet for 2 years, the last thing I wanted was a bland spirit. I hadn't previously been a big gin drinker, but I actually, after a bland diet, the flavour I got from gin was, I thought, fantastic. I was drinking it with mineral water, so I was getting very clean flavours from it, and I thought it was fantastic. But gin, the predominant characteristic is obviously juniper, and juniper is a very bitter botanical that doesn't go well with food. Does go with game, but otherwise it doesn't really go very well with food. So I had always made fruit gins, and I tried every gin there was on the market. It's amazing to think now, but it wasn't that big a field at that stage, and I couldn't find anything that worked. I couldn't find any gin I could drink with food. So I set out to make one. It was a fairly naive approach, but I had a go, and it took me a year before I had a eureka moment when I discovered that raspberries did something really special with juniper. We talk about mint and raspberries as being a traditional culinary pairing. I think of raspberries and juniper as being a natural culinary pairing. And having established that raspberries and juniper worked well together, what the raspberries do is they take the edge off the juniper and sort of smooth the edges. And I then spent another sort of 3.5-4 years trying to work out what was the optimum mix of botanicals to give myself I wanted to make a clean and refreshing gin that I could drink all evening and drink with food. And we, as you know from having tasted the triple juniper, we start with an awful lot of juniper because that balance between the raspberries and the juniper is incredibly delicate. The other botanicals we've got in there, so we distill with 5 botanicals. We then do a secondary maceration with raspberries and 2 others. All the other botanicals are there to support the main acts, which are the juniper and the raspberries, to make something clean and refreshing that I could drink all evening. Very, very, very delicate balance. Whenever you add botanicals to a spirit, you've always got to think about how those botanicals are going to work with the other botanicals that are in the spirit. Took me a long time to do this. I then friends kept saying you ought to do this commercially. I kept saying, have you any idea how much time, effort and money are required to do this commercially? And then eventually I was dragged Some various friends dragged me kicking and screaming into the market back in 2013, and I've never really looked back. To put it in some perspective, in 2013 I made 4,000 litres. Last year I made 200,000 litres. We sell Pinkster around the world. It's been a very, very successful gin. This is a hobby that's grown wildly out of control. And I've had more fun in the last 7 years than I had in the previous 25. But I was an accountant to start with, so on the fun stakes we're starting from a low base. So now what we're going to do, as before, we're going to put some gin, some Pinkster in a glass, and I'm going to raise it to my nose. And when you raise it to your nose, you should get some sweetness, some fruit notes, some raspberry notes, a little bit of juniper, but really, it's the sweetness and the raspberry that strikes most. Then have a sip. And again, strong juniper hit, swiftly followed by raspberries, and then alternating waves of juniper and raspberries, with at the end some more pronounced pepper notes. That works really well. It's very, very pleasant mouthfeel, very smooth. And that's at room temperature, undiluted, neat. Actually, very, very pleasant. It's not how I made it to be drunk, but that is a good sipping gin. And if you can drink gin like that neat, then it's going to be quite good. So I think that works really well. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put, as before, we're going to put some ice in the glass. It's going to obviously bring down the temperature, but also dilute it slightly. So as you swirl it round, you can see the ice diluting. And again, what happens when the ice dilutes? It opens up the flavors. And so then you have another taster. A much more mellow juniper hit. With raspberry waves. The juniper is predominant. That is the key characteristic of gin, and I think that works. I think that works really well. Again, I'm getting pepper notes at the end. Not everybody will get the pepper notes. Taste is a very subjective thing, but I think that works really well. Now we're gonna garnish it. We're gonna garnish it with the Fever Tree aromatic, and I'm just gonna put a dash in there. I don't want to overdo the aromatic. Now the aromatic tonic is very good. I mean, not only does it make the drink even pinker than it was to begin with, but I'm not particularly fussed actually about the colour. I'm really more interested in the flavour profile. It is the aromatics in the tonic. When you have a taste, they do work really well with the juniper and the raspberry, and I think that makes a really interesting drink. Now to garnish it, and this is where I think it really sort of this is one of those examples where a garnish really elevates the drink. So I'm going to take a half slice, a small glass, a slice of orange, and I'm going to stud a couple of cloves into the orange, like so, and I'm going to just put that in the glass. Now, when I raise the glass to my lips, I get fantastic aroma, both of cloves and orange. Now, nothing says winter and Christmas and Yuletide better than orange and cloves. I think that's a really, really good combination. Fantastic, fantastic heady aroma. And then I'm going to have a sip. Now, cloves in particular are one of those botanicals that give off their flavours very, very readily. So even though it's not in there, hasn't been in there for very long, I am getting some clove notes in the liquid. Very, very pleasant. Works incredibly well with both both Pinkster and with the aromatic tonic. I think it's a really, really good. Now we describe that as a winter serve. I think it works incredibly well. We also have, if you want to do a different winter serve, we also have our winter gin jam cocktail, which we put with Pinkster and with Indian tonic and a dash of the winter cocktail mix, which I'm afraid is not in your pack because we haven't put it in sachets yet. We only got it in bottles, and that has got orange zest and allspice in it, and again, wonderful winter flavours. So I think this is really delicious. We drink a lot of this in the winter. Really good. I hope you've enjoyed that. Now we're going to move on to our Pinkster Royale next. So now we have Pinkster Royale. Now when I finished making Pinkster, I'm left with the raspberries. And we, because we do a secondary maceration, as I said earlier, with fresh raspberries and 2 other botanicals. Now those raspberries, they're picked in the morning, they're in our tanks in the afternoon. I'm not going to tell you how long they're there for. But when we finished, we drain the tanks and we're left with the raspberries. We put them in jars and sell them as boozy berries. I'm thinking you can have a jar of boozy berries in here somewhere. I do. So we put them in jars, sell them as boozy berries. They make a fantastic pudding ingredient. I love dipping them in chocolate. We sell them in farm shops and delis. They're absolutely great. But an awful lot of them we actually turn into to jam. So I'm going to close that a second because I think the light is probably off-putting. We turn into jam, and that's what you will have received a mini jar of. Absolutely delicious. 2.5%, puts the typically in your tea time and booze in your breakfast. These are 28%, so you treat them with a degree of caution. Very good for small children for long car journeys. Jam works really well. Use it wherever you would normally use jam. When we make the jam, we're then left with the liquid. As you can see, there's liquid in there that the berries have been preserved in. Now that is a combination of gin and raspberry juice. When we take them out of the tanks, they're dry, we put them into 25 litre food grade plastic buckets, and we come in the next day and there's a liquid line around the bucket. And that the raspberry has just released its contents, and that is a combination, as I say, of gin and raspberry juice. We leave them in that liquid until we're ready either to put them in jars for them boozy berries or turn them into jam. When we turn them to jam, we're left with that liquid. We kept being asked by bars in London if they could have more of the liquid the boozy berries were preserved in, and when we asked them what they were doing with it, they said they were putting it in Prosecco or Fizz. Personally, I think it absolutely transforms Prosecco. A dash in a glass of Prosecco, absolutely wonderful. But I also really like actually drinking it on the rocks. It's 24%. So that's what we're going to do here. So again, if you pour some into a glass and have a sniff it, it's intensely raspberry. I mean, it really is intensely raspberry. It sits on the raspberries. That's been sitting. The raspberries have been steeped in that for quite a long time. They've given over a lot of their flavour, a lot of their colour, and so you see it's much darker than Pinkster, but obviously they sit a lot longer than Pinkster does. and absolutely, really sort of intense raspberry notes on those. So then have a sip, and a very intense raspberry flavour. Not ginny. This isn't a gin. Juniper is not predominant. It's technically another spirit. We don't add sugar to it, so it can't be a liqueur. This has about 3% sugar. Pinkster itself has less than a gram of sugar in a 70 cl bottle, and all of the sugar that in there, the 0.7 of a gram of sugar that we've got in a bottle of Pinkster actually comes from the raspberries. The 3.5% sugar that we've got in here comes from the raspberries. So so it's not a liqueur, it's not a gin. Technically, it's an other spirit, and it's a fantastic cocktail ingredient. As I said, works really well in prosecco. It's a really good cocktail ingredient. It's wherever you might use something like Chambord, or you want an intense raspberry flavour. This works really well. But I have to say, I often drink it on the rocks. I will often add mineral water to it, but actually, what I really like doing is putting a load of ice in a glass, and letting the ice bring down the temperature and dilute it. It's a really refreshing drink, especially on a hot summer evening, and at 24%. It's a lot lower than most spirits. I think it's really refreshing, and it's intensely raspberry. Really very good, and it's the intense raspberry notes that work so well with the pear notes of prosecco, as well. Right, it's absolutely great. Now, last summer, we were on this summer as well, but last summer we were asked by a national airline. I'm sure you can guess who. Our flag carrier, and we were asked to produce an onboard cocktail serve, and we have for several years, when we run bars, we do a gin jam cocktail, which is where we take our gin jam, add a dash of lemon juice, mix it with Pinkster, and add tonic water to lengthen it. We decided that we could put that into a gin jam cocktail mix, which is basically our jam without pectin. We actually do add a little bit of pectin that WI don't approve, but we put a little bit of pectin into our gin jam to get it set. It's at 2.5%. You can't get it set unless you add some pectin. So unset, it's much better in a cocktail. So we added some lemon juice and we put it into the sachets. And if I just show you what to do with that, so I'm going to go back to my glass of Pinkster. I'm going to put some Pinkster in, and I'm going to tear open the sachet. There's a little tear in one corner of the sachet, and if you squeeze some of the gin jam in there, I'm basically one of these sachets, 20 grams of jam. We'll do a gin and tonic, and then I've got some tonic. I'm going to top up with tonic. Throw in a bit more ice. And then I'm going to give it a stir. Now, we did an awful lot of these last summer. They were very, very popular on board, and they work really well. We were supposed to be on board this summer as well, but funnily enough, people haven't been flying as much. So that makes, I think, a really nice, slightly sweeter because of the sugar and the jam, a slightly sweeter cocktail. Now it also makes an extremely good mocktail. So if I put some tonic, I've done that. If I put some tonic and some ice in a glass, and then put a bit more of the gin jam cocktail mix in there, and give it a stir. I've probably been a bit mean with the gin jam cocktail mix. And again, I can garnish it as I did with Pinkster. I do it with some spanked mint and a raspberry. Looks just like Pinkster and tonic, but actually makes a really good mocktail. So if you're unfortunate enough to not be able to drink, or you've got to drive, or for whatever reason, I think that works really well. So I hope you've enjoyed that. We'll move on next to the Pinkster gimlet. For that you'll need a wine glass, you'll need ice, and you've got some mineral water as well. That's also a good thing. And we're going to garnish that with lime. Okay, so we're now going to try the gimlet. Now this is a Pinkster cocktail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you actually how to make it before we taste it. So you'll have a little one of these. I'm actually going to show you how simple this is to make, and how simple it is to make in larger quantities. First thing I'm going to do is actually put some ice. I'm going to try and half fill a wine glass with ice. We're doing martinis, etc., things like that. You generally want to put ice in your glass first of all, because you want the ice to bring the temperature of the actual glassware down as well. Now this is so simple to make. What I'm going to do is so I've got a what's known as a Boston shaker. It's a 2-part shaker as opposed to a 3-part shaker that's got a little lid. These are the easiest to use. These are what you'll see in most bars. I'm going to do 2 parts Pinkster. So there I'm going to do 50 ml of Pinkster. I'm going to do half a part, so 12.5 ml of Pinkster Royale. As I said earlier, makes an excellent cocktail ingredient. I've got some fresh lime, pure pour lime, and I'm going to use I'm going to use a 25 ml. Actually, I've only got 35 mils and 50 mils here, so I'm going to use the underneath of these pourers, which is 12.5 mils. So I'm going to put 2 of those in. Which is it's the equivalent of half a squeezed lime. I'm using that from Funkin because we get through quite a lot of it. So much easier. And then I've got some sugar syrup. Now I made sugar syrup. You can buy it. Just easy to make. It's sugar dissolved in boiled water. And I'm going to do again 1 part of that. So I'm going to do 25 ml of sugar syrup. So there's not many ingredients. That's 4 ingredients in a cocktail. I'm personally, for home cocktails, I don't like to have more than 4 ingredients. I like to keep it really simple. And I'm going to add a couple of things of ice into the cocktail mix, largely because actually I want them to help sort of bruise the contents. Then I'm going to put the lid on, a little bit of a tap on it to make sure it stays. I've learned from experience. And then I'm going to shake. I'm not going to start juggling can't do Flair, but I can't catch completely Malco. But that works. Take that off. And then I'm just going to pour the whole thing into the wine glass. And I'm going to fill it almost to the top. And then actually what I'm going to do, I've got some mineral water. I'm just going to top up with a little bit of mineral water. And then I'm going to garnish that with a wedge of lime. And put that in there. So now if you're doing this, what I suggest you do is you fill a wine glass with, or half fill a wine glass with ice. You pour the contents of that pre-batched gimlet into your glass, and then top up with mineral water and garnish with lime. Absolutely delicious. A really refreshing summer cocktail, so easy to make, and more importantly, so easy to make in bulk and pre-batch. So we're having parties, we will make quite a lot of this. We can then just pour it straight from the bottle. We tend to put about a glass fill. We can get through, we can get through a lot of it. It's very, very popular. Really refreshing in the summer. So I hope that you like that as much as I do. I'm going to have to make some more in a minute because I know that my wife and children will also want some. My children, hasten to add, are all over 18. Really nice. Called a Pinkster Gimlet. Gimlet is obviously a traditional gin cocktail. The Royale and the Pinkster really do work extremely well with it. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Now the next one we're going to go on to is the Wild Bullets and Quince. We started at the dry end. We're going to end up on the sweeter end. The Wild Bullets and Quince obviously is a liqueur. So for that you will need the little bottle of Head Pig Wild Bullets and Quince. You're going to need some ice, a glass, and some orange. Right. So now on to the Hedge Pig, and we make Hedge Pig. So the bottles, nice big chunky square bottles like that. These are liqueurs, as I said earlier. I've always made fruit gins, it's very straightforward. You can get some absolutely lovely liqueurs, and I'm sure lots of people will make sloe gin at home, etc. Now, this in particular, Wild Bullets and Quince, I think is an absolutely sort of outstanding liqueur. Quince, everybody knows about. It's a member of the apple family. An incredibly difficult fruit to work with. It's really, really tough. It's not grown prolifically in this country. On the continent, particularly Spain and Portugal, they have membrillo, which is a quince paste, quince cheese, which they often have with cheese at the end of the meal. I think it makes an absolutely fantastic liqueur. However, by and large, members of the apple family don't actually work that well with gin. And there are several quince gins on the market. I have to say, we've had an awful lot of plaudits for this, and I think the secret weapon for it, well, there's two secret weapons. The second of which I will come on to in a minute. But the first is that we actually add wild bullets. Now, wild bullets is a hedgerow plum. It grows quite prolifically in the hedgerows of East Anglia and in other parts of the country. It was very, very popular in the 19th century. It went completely out of popularity during the First World War. And what is left is a byproduct. It is a hangover from the 19th century. It is very old. People often don't spot it. riders often spot it, know where it is, because they tend to see it from above. Absolutely delicious. I think it's the sweetest of the hedgerow plums, and it's absolutely delicious and makes a fantastic liqueur on its own, but not nearly as good as when it is blended with quince. So let's try some. So again, I'm going to pour some into a glass, and we're going to do something slightly different this time. But again, if you have a sniff, you should get glorious honey notes, some sort of sweet honey notes on the nose. I'm getting quince, I'm getting plum. It's just gorgeous. I've had 2 masters of wine tell me this is outstanding, and we win awards aplenty and plaudits aplenty for it. Now, I think of all of our hedge pig range, this is one of 4 we currently have on the market. We're about to bring out another 2. I think all of them as being pudding gins. I want to drink them at the end of the meal. I want to drink them with my pudding, with something sweet. Actually, this goes incredibly well with cheese. So let's have a quick taste. On the tongue, again, delicious honey notes. We do put sugar in this. Again, we use cane sugar. We don't use. Although actually, to be fair, actually we probably use. We do use some East Anglian beet sugar, but most of it's cane sugar. But we don't use any syrups or anything. I'm getting lovely plum notes underlying quince. They really work well together. The quince and the black and the wild bullace. It's actually a variety called shepherd's bullace, which is a yellow bullace. You can get a black bullace as well. And it's absolutely delicious, neat. I have to say, with a strong cheese, that is really hard to beat. Really, really good. Good in a flask too. Now, as I said, there are quite a lot of quince gins on the market. I think 7 or 8 I'm aware of, and I couldn't understand why ours was hesitate to say so much better, but ours was so different to theirs. And it's not just the plum, and that is because I discovered relatively recently that everybody else is using quince juice, and because somebody tried to sell me some quince juice, and I thought it's great because actually quince is a nightmare to work with. It's really, really tough. We dice a ton of quince every year. Really, really hard work. Takes several people, several weeks. We get through lots of knives, and we dice them. Absolute nightmare. And I think the difference is, and this is the second secret, is actually that we leave the skins on. And if you're using quince juice, and a lot of gins on the market are made with juice rather than real fruit. If they say that, it's much easier, obviously, to buy in a juice than actually buy in fruit and do stuff with it. And winemakers know this. There's always a lot of flavour in skins, and I think that it is the skins that we leave on the quince that absolutely lift this above the rest of the field. Absolutely delicious. Now, it also makes an extremely good long drink. So I'm going to pour a little bit more in there, and I have to say, in the winter, my preferred evening drink, first evening drink, is actually this with ginger ale. So I'm going to put some ice in the glass. Now, fun enough, we didn't taste this with ice because the general rule is that, because it's got plums in it and plums are stone fruit, the general rule is that things that are made with stone fruit are better at room temperature. Things that are made with top fruit or soft fruit are better colder. So because this is effectively top fruit, soft stone fruit, and actually the quince counts as stone fruit too because they've got pips in them in the middle. It's better at room temperature. So I didn't try lowering the temperature to taste it. This I want to drink at room temperature. But if I'm going to turn to a long drink, and again I'm going to do 1 to 2. So I'm going to top that up with some ginger ale. And very much as we did with the triple juniper, I'm going to take some orange peel, and again I'm going to twist it and put it in. Now I think that looks fantastic. People who like whiskey really like this. People who like gin really like this. Sadly, we can only make a couple of thousand litres of it a year. We forage for the juniper, for the I've got juniper on the brain, for the wild bullis. Works incredibly well with the ginger ale. Really does work with the ginger ale and the orange. That's a really nice long drink. I'll happily drink that for most of the year, particularly when the weather is cold. And I just wish I could make more of it. So I hope that you have enjoyed that. I hope that you've enjoyed all the things we tasted this evening. A couple of things I've just realised I didn't when I was talking about our gin jam cocktail mix. We actually have a winter version, which I have some here, which is our winter cocktail mix. It's exactly the same as the summer cocktail mix that you tried in the sachets. We have the summer mix and the winter mix in bottles as well, and the winter mix has allspice and orange zest in it as well. Works incredibly well. They also go fantastically well. The cocktail mixes work incredibly well on ice cream, so they're really quite versatile. We have a range of other hedge pig flavours. We do hedge pig tastings as well, and we have a broad range of things. Now, everything you've tried this evening is available on our website. So I hope you've enjoyed this evening, and I hope that you like things enough to be able to buy some things, buy some of what you've tried, and to contribute to the charity. Thank you very much indeed.
So I hope you enjoyed the tasting. If you love some of the gins and want to treat yourself and some of your friends and family this Christmas, why don't you head to the Pinkster Gin website using the code RANK10, and 10% of the proceeds of your order go directly to the charity. So thank you. Why don't you head to the Zoom link now for the live Q&A.